Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo. Welcome back to Destiny, and we are here celebrating yet another Armsday. Now, rather than doing a more traditional Armsday video, we're going to do a bit of a commentary, a bit of discussion regarding my thoughts on Armsday, Banshee 44. Just how long can Bungie keep this thing going? You know, how long can we actually look forward to Armsday? So let's just take a quick look at what Banshee's throwing out this week in terms of pickups, because there's some fun stuff here, right? Something that I've been complaining about recently to my fire team. Hackett hand cannons. Haven't really seen any of these apart from the prototypes, and I think I had a blue Hackett hand cannon like the first week of the Taken King. I haven't seen anything, so I'm super stoked about that, and I'm buying one. We also got an Amalon hand cannon as well as another Hackett pulse rifle. We got a Suro Scout as well as another Hackett auto. So some stuff going on here, right? You know, I'm probably going to actually pick up almost all of these, to be honest. So let's just grab this one, and then I'm going to have to make more space, and then we'll grab some more of those. But we'll come back to that. That's not the real reason that I wanted to come here. I'm very excited about the Hackett hand cannon. I strongly recommend you pick it up just because. Who cares what the stats look like? Just grab it because it's a freaking Hackett hand cannon. So let's head back out to orbit here. You can see that I've got my Hackett shotgun that I acquired. That was the only order that I placed last week. And let's get this discussion going. So I was thinking, right? Admittedly, you know, we're getting new variants and different perk rolls and stat rolls for all these weapons that are coming every Wednesday with Armsday. But for me, I mean, I have a lot of really solid weapons in my inventory already. Like, I mean, I've got some good stuff, you know? There's not like this huge concern for me to, I don't want to say this, I mean, there's not like a real big concern for me right now to keep acquiring legendary weapons. You know, I've got a pretty solid set of equipment. Take a look at my inventory real quick. I mean, I've got an overflow, to be honest. I've got like so much stuff going on here in terms of good primaries. Secondaries are the same thing. I've just got all of these different shotguns, fusion rifles. I've got so much equipment that it's hard for me to actually look at Armsday as sort of like this is a good thing. You know, I can get my hands on this. And that being said, it's a very low cost thing, right? 2,500 Glimmer for a weapon on Armsday for one package isn't really a lot. So I would remain, you know, I would like to, you know, have the fact remain that it is still a good idea to just pick up these weapons and see what you get. Because you might get a really intense roll, you know, a shotgun with really high impact or range, you know, something that's always going to surprise you. And I think that's kind of where, for me, the limitation of excitement lies within Armsday is, you know, just trying to see what sort of roll I can get, you know, what sort of stat bonuses will come up in perk bonuses. But you know, you start to wonder, it's like, how long are we going to see, you know, unique weapons coming in Armsday? I mean, first and foremost, all of the weapons that you pick up from Banshee on Armsday are like the factory standard designs, which was something that, you know, it did upset me a little bit. I mean, yeah, we have different variants of the Hackett shotguns. This is a Hackett shotgun, for example, that I've never seen this design. I think I saw it on one other player, but if we look at this thing, it's sort of got like a weird, you know, Spaz 12 thing going on with this foregrip. It's, you know, very reminiscent of that with just, I don't know, it's weird. It's a really cool, like, hybrid looking shotgun. I totally like that. You know, it's nice to see a bit of variety despite the fact that the paint job is still standard Hackett, because they're standard foundry weapons. Perk-wise, I've got some field choke, I've got close and or personal, rangefinder, and a choice between flared magwell, hand-loaded, and oiled frame. So I'm going to get some boosted range on this thing. That's my plan, to stack hand-loaded with field choke, as well as rangefinder, and see if I can't make this a pretty solid PvP shotgun, because I only have like one really good PV shotgun right now. It's kind of the big deal is the one that I have, and it's all right, you know, I like it, it's good, but sometimes you just want to move on and see what else you can get. So I guess the big question that I wanted to ask you guys for this week was, you know, is Armsday something that you're still excited about? Are you still, like, you know, digging through the orders, hoping to find that perfect weapon? I know for me, since I refuse to actually go ahead and look and see what the stat rolls are going to be on any of these weapons when they come to the tower, it's, you know, it kind of can be a random thing for me. Even if there's a repeat weapon, I tend to forget what that weapon was and what sort of stats I could have expected on it, you know, but the perks are always random. You know, you have an opportunity to get a completely different set of perks every time. Holy crap, I've never had that happen. I was killed by the architects, so I'm pretty sure I just got smashed into a wall by one of those guys. So I'm curious actually to see how long, you know, that this whole thing can hang on. Obviously, what Bungie's done by creating, you know, Armsday with Banshee is they've given themselves a platform to deliver new content moving into the future. You know, there's the opportunity to deliver different weapon manufacturers, which is something I have my fingers crossed for this big time, and this is kind of something I wanted to lead this conversation into, is that right now we have the 3 core manufacturers as they've been established in the Taken King, so Amalon, Hake, and Suros, but we do know that there are other manufacturers, you know, Tex Mechanica. There's a couple other ones that are represented in the lore. It's like, when are we going to get the opportunity to see weapons from them? You know, is this something that Bungie has planned, that they're just waiting to introduce it into the game? You know, I would love to see just simply the addition of legendary weapons into Destiny as almost a standalone expansion element. You know, some of those free updates that are rumored, if they contained more legendary weapons from different foundries, I'd be 100% on board with that. I think that would be an awesome way to add life to this game, because outside of direct content like strikes and missions and, you know, new areas to explore, I feel that weapons and gear are definitely a huge part of the life, you know, the overall replayability of a game like Destiny. So introducing new content like that can definitely make the game feel alive. It can breathe a little bit more life into it, you know, when it's sort of on that long stretch between the next big piece of content. Now, they're sort of already doing that with the exotics and the way that they're staggering the launches. You know, just recently we finally found out how we could get our hands on No Time to Explain. You know, a lot of people are picking up their last curse for the first time this week. Sadly, I was a week behind on that. A little bit disappointing. I would have liked to have had that hand cannon. You know, so they're doing a good job in staggering content, hoping that they can keep players interested as we move forward into whatever is going to happen next year with Destiny. But I genuinely would like to see some small releases this holiday, and I think that the introduction of new weapons could be pretty freaking cool. But, you know, that's really going to be up to Bungie there. Not too much room to actually discuss and argue regarding what they might do come this holiday. So for me right now, you know, I'm still just kind of hoping for Banshee to show up to the tower with things that we haven't seen, like, you know, the Suros rocket launchers that he came with last week and the week before that. It was nice to finally see a Suros rocket launcher. The Hake hand cannon that he has this week, I'm very excited to get my hands on that. You know, kind of see what sort of perk rolls we can get on that. It'll be just exciting to finally have a Hake hand cannon, because I really do enjoy the design elements of the Hake hand cannons, but they're just so stinking rare. They are really genuinely rare weapons, and I really want to see more of them. So really what I want to ask you guys is, what, you know, specific weapon manufacturer and weapon type are you looking forward to seeing from Banshee? I know there's still quite a few that we haven't seen really in, you know, in abundance coming with Armsday. I think a lot of the Thesson FR4 fusion rifles, I haven't seen too many of those. I don't actually remember if that's shown up at all yet for Armsday. I don't believe it has. I know I've obtained one as a random drop from leveling up Banshee, but I don't believe that I ever managed to get my hands on one as an Armsday weapons order. So that's something I'm also looking forward to. And I think that more Hake hand cannons would definitely be welcome. So last thing I want to talk a little bit about is the limitations that Bungie seems to have put on the different manufacturers. As we know, certain manufacturers, certain foundries don't produce certain weapon types. For example, Hake doesn't have a scout rifle. Suros doesn't have actually, Suros has everything. Suros has everything. Damn, Suros, why are you so relevant in the weapon making industry? Amalon doesn't have everything. You know, Amalon doesn't have an auto rifle. I would love to see an Amalon auto rifle. Amalon doesn't have a pulse rifle. You know, they're reserved to snipers, scouts, hand cannons, and they also have wow, losing my train of thought here. Snipers, hand cannons, scouts, fusion rifles, and they also have fusion rifles. So there's opportunity for them to open that up and, you know, start to give us weapons from the foundries that haven't created before. I'd kill to see a Hake scout rifle, you know, to see an Amalon auto rifle. So that's awesome. I'm definitely excited for the potential behind all of the stuff going on with the weapon foundries. I think it was one of the smartest things that Bungie did, establishing proper foundries. And frankly, I'd like to see them get even more into this and get further away from a lot of the generic weapons we still see. You know, a lot of the Vanguard weapons, they're manufacturerless. You know, like the 1,000-yard stare, they're just snipers created by someone. So if they can start to up the ante with the actually foundries and, you know, the variety of weapons that each of those foundries create, I think that'd be a great way forward for the way that weapons are handled in Destiny and bring some more character and life. And to be honest, the one hugely fantastical thing that I would love to see happen is armor smiths. actually being formed as well. So who knows? These are just a lot of speculations, but, you know, we're not doing them in a critical sense, and this is kind of a discussion I've always wanted to have. You know, there's nothing wrong, I think, with having a little bit of fun conversation about a game with a community that is very dedicated to that game, you know, and talk a little bit about the what-ifs. We're not doing it in a critical sense. We're not knocking Bungie for not having created these things. We're just talking about what could have happened, or what could happen if Bungie decided to make these choices, and whether or not that would excite us, whether or not that's something that we're interested in. So I definitely want to hear your thoughts on everything we talked about today. And considering it is Armsday, feel free to share any special, or at least particular weapons that you managed to pick up from Banshee today that you've already kind of fallen in love with just from looking at their stats. If you guys have any other questions for me regarding the video or anything that we've talked about, anything for the channel, feel free to let me know down in the comment section below as well, and I will see you in the next one.